a lot of fans are just unhappy with her. She did not have Sophie Cunningham's back. She went out there and claimed that she didn't actually see the play happen. Now, video and pictures everywhere are showing her looking directly at the play. Well, now you got a bigger problem. Now you got a bigger problem. And why'd you wait so long to address this? And why are you...
Reports circulating online suggest that Stephanie White's heated response to reporters may have been directed at a single individual rather than the media as a whole. Based on social media chatter and comments attributed to Dave Portnoy himself, speculation points to Portnoy as the primary target of her frustration. A closer look at the sequence of events may help clarify exactly what triggered such a strong reaction from White. White's press conference behavior was notably unusual, as she barely allowed reporters to finish their questions before responding.
You so worked up with what people are saying online anyway, shouldn't you be busy being a coach? Well, she's getting absolutely blitzed today. And I knew she would. As soon as that came out of her mouth, I was like, oh, she's going to get destroyed. She thinks whatever backlash she's been seeing was an issue. She hadn't seen nothing yet.
Portnoy addressed the situation the following morning. Before covering his reaction, it's worth revisiting what White actually said. In her remarks, White stated that her comments weren't aimed at reporters present in the room, but rather at an online community she accused of manufacturing false narratives and distorting who she is. She emphasized that player wellness, safety, and success remain her top priorities, and that she takes pride in her relationships with players.
You're telling your paying customer to go to hell. And you can't try to backtrack this now. That's exactly what you did. You see, this team gets too, I've said this before, this team gets too much attention for her. Plain and simple. That's why I've said before you needed an NBA coach. Somebody that can handle...
Regarding the previous game's controversial play, she claimed she hadn't seen it in real time and went straight into a press conference afterward, believing the call was correct. She acknowledged the play was egregious upon later review, but said she lacked that context in the moment. She also pushed back strongly against any suggestion that she doesn't fully support her players, insisting she stands behind them completely, all the time. However, footage reviewed afterward reportedly contradicts part of her account.
All the scrutiny that's going to come with being the coach of Caitlin Clark. That it is what it is. Every little thing is going to get broken down. All right? Plain and simple. You're the closest thing that WNBA has to the Dallas Cowboys or the Eagles or the Yankees or the Dodgers. Insert team here that's Lakers. Bob Iger.
An earlier portion of the clip, often omitted by other outlets covering the story, shows her acknowledging she was aware the play was a flagrant foul, raising questions about her claim that she hadn't seen what happened. Critics argue this omission is misleading, since her later apology framed the situation as though she had no real-time knowledge of the incident, when unedited footage suggests otherwise. The concern raised is that instead of simply admitting a mistake, acknowledging she should have defended one particular player instead of another, White pivoted to broader talk about outside forces trying to divide the team and hijack the league narrative. Fans of the team, according to this perspective, are frequently blamed unfairly for controversies unrelated to their actual behavior, and what fans actually want is a coach who consistently backs her players and team without hesitation.
Really? Ugh. Anyway, I'm not a Lakers fan, so I ain't got to worry about that. Let's just go through and look at some of the backlash. Seriously, fire Stephanie White. The worst look in the world right now is the Indiana Fever coming out. I mean, at this point, if the Pacers wanted to get rid of Stephanie White, they'd have to fire the president too. The team...
Portnoy also revealed he privately messaged a star player on the team asking for clarity on the situation, requesting she speak up off the record. According to him, the message went unanswered, yet the player later publicly voiced support for White, a gesture that, if accurate, would carry significant weight given it reflects team unity behind the coach. A friend of White's, radio personality Dan Dakich, also weighed in, arguing that the coach's claim of having her players' backs rings hollow given the circumstances, using a blunt comparison to make the point.
President backed these comments. It seems unimaginable. Remember, fans, Stephanie White didn't see the attack on Sophie in real time. There she is standing right there. There she is right there. This was a predictable Stephanie White performance. She needs to resign. The Fever organization needs to make changes now, not later.
He noted specific incidents where players took physical hits without receiving vocal defense from their coach, and pointed out that despite a strong 21-12 record and a stretch of winning 7 of 10 games, controversy over off-court noise continues to dominate the conversation. His view was that coaching credibility in Indianapolis has been undermined by this pattern of behavior, regardless of on-court success. Another commentator countered that all White needed to do was acknowledge in the moment that she hadn't yet reviewed the play and promised to look at it more closely, a simple admission that would have avoided the backlash altogether.
You guys are amplifying this nonsense. Go to hell is acceptable messaging for the Fever, ? You know what? I'm going to be interested to see the response from some that are watching this league up on the hill. That's rather interesting. Fever.
2 players, including Clark and Cunningham, publicly backed their coach afterward, describing a strong bond within the locker room and expressing discomfort that fans had booed White before a recent game. Both indicated that outside distractions wouldn't fracture team unity and that they remained supportive of their coach despite the criticism. Discussion also turned to a broader point about coaching norms. Individuals with backgrounds coaching at various levels argued that coaches, regardless of experience level, are trained to instinctively defend their players first in public statements, regardless of whether they've seen a replay.
Please do us all a favor and the club as a whole a favor. Do not allow her to talk, please. The more she talks, the more people dislike her. Absolutely. I guess telling everyone else to go to hell somehow constitutes grace and kindness. She should have left it at hindsight is 2020.
The critique offered was that failing to do so undermines a coach's role, and framed the broader handling of the incident as evidence that dishonesty about the situation only made matters worse. The plan had been to focus purely on the outcome of the match, but once again the head coach shifted attention onto herself before tip-off, using her pre-game podium time to go after critics, both fans and members of the media who had been questioning her decisions. The larger point stands. Rather than letting the night's matchup be the headline, another self-created controversy took over.
But before we get into that, how about a women's league that can make an easy, definitive decision? And this is exactly what Kathy Engelbert should have done with the new CBA. And then when she realized she hadn't done it, she should have done this last week. Project B has made a definitive decision about biological men in women's basketball.
For someone holding a professional coaching position in a professional league, the inability to absorb criticism without taking it personally has become a recurring issue. It raises questions about whether this is how she believes coaches at this level are supposed to carry themselves. Picture that same approach applied to a manager in Major League Baseball or a coach in the NFL. That kind of conduct wouldn't survive a single week.
And far as they're concerned, biological men are banned from competition in Project B. Just like that. Just that quick. Not only that, but they slammed the WNBA for not being able to make a decision. Front Office Sports Elena Beard, a former WNBA star in the
Scrutiny has mounted over her failure to support Sophie Cunningham following an incident, and she also got tangled up in a questionable claim, insisting she hadn't seen the live exchange between two players in real time. The obvious response, is that really believable? In her remarks, she suggested the harshest criticism wasn't coming from anyone physically present, but from an online crowd.
Co-founder of the planned Global Basketball League, Project B, told Front Office Sports she's disappointed in the WNBA's leadership for not taking a stand against non-basketball narratives dominate its discourse. Quote, where's the accountability, the integrity, the intentionality, said Beard, who is also the league's chief basketball officer. All of it is needed right now. In what?
Naturally, that framing conveniently excludes the actual reporters in the room, none of whom, it's argued, should hold press credentials anymore, given how little pushback they gave her for such unprofessional and erratic comments. It seems she's spending considerable time monitoring social media chatter, now facing coverage from conservative commentators and voices from outside the usual basketball media, people unafraid to hold her accountable, and she appears to be buckling under that pressure. Her actual statement described the criticism as coming from an online segment manufacturing false narratives and distorting who she is and what she stands for.
Could become one of the most defining moments in the history of the sport. Beard added that Project B, which says it will launch in January, will focus on, quote, creating joy and delivering the highest quality basketball. Project B has signed several WNBA stars, including Nneka Ogwumike, Jonquel Jones, and Sophie Cunningham. By the way, Kelsey Mitchell is signed to this league too. Cunningham's comments in ESPN's profile published in late July.
She emphasized that player success, health, safety, and strong relationships with her athletes remain her top priorities. Regarding the previous game's controversial play, she maintained she hadn't witnessed it live, having gone straight into a press conference, and initially believed the officiating call was correct. She acknowledged, after repeated replay viewings, that the incident was indeed egregious, though she was thankful the player involved was okay, while reiterating she simply hadn't caught it live.
Have put an increased focus on the WNBA's eligibility requirements. The Indiana Fever Guard said she wants to, quote, protect young girls in a locker room or young girls in sport who shouldn't have to go against biological men. These comments have been met with support from groups seeking to protect women's sports, but also resistance from trans rights activists, as well as some WNBA players and coaches. Project B.
When pressed on whether she consistently backs her players, she pushed back firmly, insisting she's fully committed to her team at all times, and expressing frustration that the team's strong play was being overshadowed. Commentary responded sharply, noting the ongoing pattern of questionable conduct won't stop unless she changes course. She continued her statement by describing her leadership philosophy as one rooted in love, grace, humility, and integrity, while admitting she won't always get everything right since she's human too.
Told Front Office Sports that as an international league, it will follow the International Olympic Committee and FIBA gender eligibility guidelines, saying the decision is meant to provide, quote, consistency and confidence for players and stakeholders. In March, the IOC announced a new policy effectively banning transgender women, biological men, from competing in female categories at the Olympics.
She spoke of refusing to let hate, fear, and division hijack the league, insisting unity would prevail, that going high when others go low, and that love, grace, humility, and kindness would ultimately win out. She closed by declaring her unwavering support for her players before adding that everyone else could go to hell. That closing line drew heavy mockery, framed as an oddly aggressive way to end a speech otherwise built around themes of compassion.
IOC explained the policy, quote, protects fairness, safety, and the integrity in the female category. FIBA announced in April it would follow the IOC's policies. So how about that? Just that quick. All the while, Kathy Engelbert sent a memo out, said they've got to get together and discuss with stakeholders what a freaking woman is.
Plenty of Caitlin Clark fans, Sophie Cunningham fans, and Fever supporters in general were essentially told by their own coach to go to hell. Comparisons were drawn to legendary coaches across sports history, figures known for gruff exteriors and complicated relationships with the media, yet none of whom ever told their own fan base to go to hell, no matter how testy they got with reporters over the years. More coverage was promised on the fallout, with the situation framed as yet another self-inflicted controversy.
The WNBA's eligibility rules are collectively bargained, though there is just one line in the CBA surrounding eligibility based on gender, which reads, only players who are women are eligible to play in the WNBA. It does not provide information on identity or gender assigned at birth, though there has been no transgender player assigned male at birth that has ever played in the WNBA. Project B told Front Office Sports its players are aware that the league will follow the
Video evidence was cited showing the coach seemingly watching the contested play unfold in real time, finger visibly pointed toward the action, directly